Madam, we can go ahead now. It is already 12.
Yes, sir. I'm just waiting for Dr. Vishal. I think he's logged out. Dr. Vishal, yeah. Dr. Vishal, can...
Yes, ma'am. Please, Dr. Tejke Kausa, with your due permission, sir, should we begin, sir?
Please, my privilege to hear and watch this webinar. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your wishes.
Dr. Vijayalakshmi, madam, please proceed.
Yes, sir. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Respected seniors and friends, a very warm welcome for today's RSACP webinar conducted by the RSACP Puducherry branch. And I wish to start the webinar with the blessings of Ma Saraswati. So, our endeavor to achieve academic excellence, we embark upon this journey of various things which go through this journey like research, publications, etc. So as we further explore this aspect, research grants and patenting of innovations is one vital step. So today we wish to explore this aspect in our webinar with the theme Research Grants and Patenting of Innovation. We have a very good panel of faculty who would be discussing about it, speaking about it, who themselves are part of the panel for the approval of research grants, as well as who have got numerous research grants and patents. So I wish all the delegates would enjoy this discussion today. And shall we start with the first topic for today is research grants and how to apply and succeed. It's a very difficult one, like most people would have applied for intramural, extramural grants, but probably with or minimal success. So probably we'll take a cue from today's topic, what exactly goes into applying and succeeding in this. So to start with, I'll just introduce today's chairpersons for this. I'm just sharing the screen.
Ma'am, can I interrupt you for a second, ma'am, please?
Yes.
I'm so sorry,
yeah,
ma'am.
We would like to
welcome Ma'am ISA National President, Dr. Venkat Giri, sir.
Venkat Giri, sir.
Thank you.
You're heartily welcome on the RSACP platform, sir. We are so blessed to have you on the RSACP platform, sir. Please, ma'am, Dr. Vijayalakshmi.
Sorry for that. Very big thank you to Tejkal sir also, who's here. And I think later on, before the second talk, I wish that Tejkal sir also would speak a few words. Venkatagiri sir, welcome, very warm welcome, sir, to you. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible, ma'am. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah. The first chairperson for today is a well-known person. All of us know her. Dr. Anju Grewal, madam. She's a professor and HOD in Danan Medical College and Hospital, Ludhiana, with the wide areas of interest, including scientific communication, obstetric anesthesia, CPR, airway management, trauma anesthesia. A huge number of publications and achievements. Has been the former editor-in-chief of JOCP, as we all know, and been the vice president of RSACP. She is the national secretary of Association of Obstetric Anesthesiologists of India. She's also the associate editor, International Journal of Regional Anesthesia, coordinator of DMCH for the BLS and ACLS courses, Airway Management Foundation, chairperson Code Blue Team, DMCH, and scientific chair, National Isacon 2016. A very warm and kind-hearted person and very helpful. So very warm welcome to you, madam, to chair this session. The second chair is Dr. Satyan Parida. He is the professor of anesthesiology critical care, JIPMER. He holds a degree of MD PDCC, areas of interest, cardiac anesthesia, critical care and trauma, with huge number of publications and chapters in books, and with special recognitions and awards, ISA IJA Reviewer Award 2018-19 for Cardiac Anesthesia Section, JIPMER Young Minds Award 2015. And he's established the subdivision of cardiac anesthesia at JIPMER and also started the postdoctoral fellowship course in cardiac and neuroanesthesia in 2012. From 2017, the DM program was started at JIPMER in cardiac anesthesia and established the TAVR program as part of JIPMER's heart team, and also established the recently initiated MICS program at JIPMER. He's got extramural fundings, and both of them are the apt persons for today's chairing today's session. So I request them to start this topic and introduce the speaker for today. Sir, I apologize. Satyan Parida sir has also honorary positions, examiner in various boards and even DM cardiac anesthesia. He's a reviewer of various journals and editor in position section editor of critical care IJA, and he's also a research consultant and collaborator to Edwards Life Sciences. So over to the chairpersons for today to introduce today's speaker. And
thank you so much, Dr. Vijayalakshmi. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
On behalf of my co-chairperson, Dr. Satyan Parida, it's my humble privilege to welcome you all and to introduce you to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Hari Venkatesh Natarajan. He's an associate professor at JIPMER, Puducherry, graduated from Madras Medical College and has been pursuing DM clinical pharmacology and therapeutics from AIIMS. Represented India for Nobel Laureates meeting. It's something that's really we should be extremely proud of to have you here amongst us. And he's won more than 30 awards and presented research papers in many national and international conferences. Is a resource person for various workshops and conferences, and has got very extremely good areas of interest of interest for us as JOCP, I would say. Clinical pharmacokinetics, clinical trials, pharmacogenomics, personalized medicine, and clinical pharmacology and toxicology. Welcome, Dr. Hari Venkatesh, and we invite you to speak to us on research grants, how to apply and succeed. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, ma'am, for the introduction. A very good evening to one and all. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Ma'am, is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, your screen is visible, you're audible.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So in next few minutes, I'll be discussing under the following headings: the why, when, what, where, and hows of grant writing, how is the grant proposal evaluated, and what do the grant reviewers expect in a grant application, and what are the 10 most common reasons for rejection of a grant application, and finally the do's and don'ts in a grant writing. So I'd like to start the session by sharing a story regarding touch therapy with you. One fine Monday morning, I got a call from my friend who is a busy practicing oncosurgeon in Chennai. He told me that nearby his clinic, there is a person who treats cancer pain by using touch therapy. So he asked me a question, whether can you treat cancer pain by using touch therapy? And if yes, how effective is touch therapy in treating cancer pain? So it seems to be a valid question. So I did a preliminary PubMed search using the mesh term touch therapy and cancer pain. And to my surprise, I couldn't find any article which talked about touch therapy and cancer pain. So we were very happy. We thought the idea is very innovative. Since no research papers were available in this topic, we thought this idea is first of its kind. And we wrote a research proposal within a week and submitted it to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The title of the proposal was Touch Therapy for Cancer Pain. Waited for a few weeks. After a few weeks, we got the reply from the funding agency stating that, dear doctor, I am sorry to reject your proposal as it lacks novelty and blah, blah, blah. So once I got the reply from the funding agency, I did a detailed search once again. And now, but I used a different search strategy. So instead of touch therapy, I used the term therapeutic touch in cancer. I could find more than 163 articles which are already there available in the literature. And the first search result was about the effect of therapeutic touch in patients with cancer. I could also find a Cochrane systematic review regarding the effect of touch therapies for pain relief in adults. Here, the authors concluded that touch therapies may have a modest effect in pain relief. More studies on healing touch and Reiki, which is again a form of touch therapy in Japan, in relieving pain are needed. More studies, including children, are also required to evaluate the effect of touch on children. So if had I come across this systematic review while I was writing my grant application, definitely I would have pointed out the lacunae in the current lacunae which is there in the literature regarding the touch therapy, and I would have designed the study in such a way that my proposed study would cover the lacunae, and it will come up with a good evidence whether the touch therapy is beneficial in pain relief or not. So, but what happened? What went wrong? My literature search was not adequate. I was in a too hurry to submit the research proposal, and of course, I didn't devote adequate time to write the research grant because everything was done within a week. So the moral of the story is, just for the sake of writing a grant proposal, please don't write a grant proposal just for the sake of writing it due to peer pressure or due to the pressure from the guide. Do it right. Of course, the story was just hypothetical to attract the audience. Okay, so identify the correct statement. Is literature, sorry, this grant writing, is it a science or is it an art? So actually speaking, grant writing is a scientific art. So you should know the science behind the grant application, and you should be an expert. You should know the art of writing the research grants. So it is actually a combination of both science and art. Now, why should we write a research grant? We need money to undertake research, to find solutions for unmet medical need or for betterment of patient care, or to generate new evidence or for advancement of science. Without money, doing a high quality research is almost not possible. And of course, for academic progress, for advancing our CV and to get the next promotion in academia, of course, you require successful grant applications. The other reasons are to get a name and fame, and of course to show off. When will you start writing the grant application? So the best part is you don't need to be a genius to start writing a research grant application. The foremost requirements for any successful grant applicants are, you should have a commitment. You should be committed to write the application and to do the research work. You should be able to devote adequate time to write the application and to do the research work. And you should have undergone training, formal training in research methodology and grant writing. And more than that, you should have a good mentor who is ready to help you through all the stages of grant application. So the best thing is to start well ahead of the deadline. Please don't wait till the last moment to start writing the research grant application. So majorly, there are two types of grant applications. One is the intramural grant and the other one is the extramural grant. Intramural grant, it is generally for the researchers who work in the institutes which are affiliated with the particular funding agency. For example, ICMR has multiple institutes affiliated with it. So only persons who work in those institutes are eligible to apply for ICMR intramural grants. Extramural grants is open for anyone. So there are generally two types of extramural grants which are given by most of the funding agencies. One is the startup grants, the other one is the core research grants. The startup grants is for the young researchers or the early career researchers, and the core research grant is for the experienced researchers who have already got few grants. Most of the funding agencies, they ask you to submit a concept proposal, and if you are successful, if your concept proposal is selected, then they'll ask you to submit a detailed proposal. There are few agencies which ask you to submit the detailed proposal in the beginning itself. And nowadays, there are many task forces. The recent one, the latest one is the COVID-19 task force, where recently there was a call for proposals regarding the various aspects regarding the treatment and diagnosis of COVID-19. And the last one is exclusively for experienced researchers to establish a center for advanced research. Now, where to apply for the research grants? So in India, there are major 5 funding agencies which are responsible for funding the applications related to medical sciences. One is the Indian Council of Medical Research. Then you have Department of Science and Technology, the SERB, Scientific and Engineering Research Board under DST. It funds it funds a majority of science-related research projects. Then we have Department of Biotechnology, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and Ayush Ministry. So apart from this, there are various professional bodies belonging to different specialties which provide seed grant for the early career researchers to start their research work. So these research grants are extremely competitive. The global success rate is somewhere around 10%. So 9 out of 10 research grant applications, they ultimately end up in getting rejected. So what about the status in India? I can just show you a latest notification from ICMR dated 13th December 2021. Actually, they have called for concept proposals under India Cancer Consortium in the month of August, and they received 1,237 concept proposals, out of which they have selected 65 concept proposals for the next stage, which is to submit a detailed proposal. So the success rate for concept proposal is 5%. So it is the competition is extremely high, especially in India. So having said this, what are the various ways to write a successful grant application? So writing a grant application is like playing a game. So once you play the game, if you are not following the rules, then you are out. So similarly, in case of grant application, the first and foremost thing is to read the guideline properly. So get the call for proposals document. So please read the guidelines carefully, and during each and every step of the application, follow the guidelines. So this is a simple thing which you can do to increase the success of your grant proposal, getting the grant. So if possible, you try to get the previously successful grant proposal from your seniors or from your mentors and grow through them before you start writing your own grant application. And ensure that your proposal is eligible for funding. So certain funding agencies have certain norms. They will fund only for people who have a permanent position in a government institution, whereas some agencies, they don't have such kind of norms. So before you start writing, ensure that your proposal is eligible to receive funding from that particular agency. And the most important thing is to ensure that your proposal is aligned with the goals of the funding agency. So if your research work does not fall under the thrust areas of the funding agency, please don't go for the next step. And know the grant submission deadlines well ahead before you start writing the research grant application, and please don't miss the deadlines. And before you start writing, undertake preliminary research in the form of systematic reviews. So if you don't have any adequate data, then of course you have to do pilot study to generate the data. And the most important thing is to assemble a qualified team before you start writing the grant application. So in spite of reading the guidelines, if you still have any queries, please don't hesitate to contact the funding agencies to resolve your queries. Certain few general tips: start writing well in advance, because your grant writing is definitely a time-consuming process. What most of the experienced researchers says is it takes almost a week to write a single page of a well-written grant application. So send the application to the collaborators and get their feedback. So send it to them well ahead of time and give them time to review your grant application and get the feedback, and then modify your grant application in accordance with the feedback received from your colleagues. Through the grant application, you mainly convince the reviewer in such a way that your research question is more important. Follow the template of the funding body if available. Most of the funding bodies have their own templates. If it is not available, then you can use your own template. Always try to be concise and adhere to the word limits. So what most of us do is we try to express everything in the grant proposal. So even if the grant proposal have word limits, we try to introduce some kind of hyphen or something, some kind of tricks we try to do, and so that we can fall into the word limits. Please don't do that. Please try to be as much concise as possible and make sure that your grant application, there's a connection between the previous paragraph and the next paragraph, so that there is a logical flow of information. And the most important thing is to use a simple English. So your grant application is evaluated based on the scientific merit, not on the basis of your English language. So always try to avoid scientific jargons and write in an active voice. Don't use passive voice as much as possible. So before you submit the application, double check for spelling mistakes and grammatical errors. So this is something which is very important, because the reviewer, if there are spelling mistakes and grammatical errors, then it shows you are very casual in writing the grant application, which might be a negative side for you. So always try to leave spaces between the sentences and avoid uncommon abbreviations. And whenever you are trying to use data, use the data from a reputed source and give a proper reference. And throughout the grant application, emphasize the key messages. Either try to underline it or give it in bold, and try to emphasize the key messages throughout the application. So Braverman, who was a grants manager at NIH, once said, there is no grantsmanship that will turn a bad idea into a good one, but there are many ways to disguise a good idea. So the most important thing is to have a good research idea. So if your research idea, if your research question itself is not good, whatever polishing you do during your grant writing process, ultimately you will end up with a failure. So this is the most important and the simplest idea. So most of the time what we think is, if we choose a simple idea, we may not be given the grant. Actually, that is a wrong concept. Take a simple idea and try to identify a specific problem associated with that simple idea. So, and imagine yourself as a salesperson. So now your major task is to sell the proposal to a funding agency, or your task is to market the idea in the form of a fundable proposal. Even though you might have an enormous knowledge about your research idea, if you don't put it in the grant application properly, then the chances of getting funding is remote. And the most important thing is to put yourself in the shoes of grant reviewers. So most of these funding agencies, they do not pay the grant reviewers for reviewing the grant applications. So the reviewers do the job voluntarily out of their own interest and passion. So imagine a reviewer has to review a dozen of this grant applications about the diverse, complicated subjects. Sometimes most of these subjects might be outside their own expertise. So as a applicant, you think in their shoes and try to make your application as much easy as possible for the reviewer to read. Convince the reviewer in such a way that the reviewer is convinced that you really know what you are trying to do. So this is the most important thing. Now coming to the parts of grant proposal: title, abstract, problem statement, goals and objectives, methodology, then about the project management and key personnel involved in the research in the proposal, then how will the objectives be evaluated and what is the dissemination plan, then about the various timelines, budget details, ethical considerations, followed by references and appendices. Now I'd like to spend some time regarding the title and abstract part. Title is the first thing which any reviewer would read. So your title should be informative and at the same time it should be catchy. And before a reviewer thinks of accepting the grant application for further review, for a detailed review, he will first read the abstract. He or she will first read the abstract. So make sure that the abstract is standalone. So it is the one which the reviewer is going to read first. So your abstract should always be clear and concise, and it should cover all the key elements of your entire grant proposal. And the next important part of your grant proposal is the problem statement. So state why the particular problem which you have chosen is important, and to which audience it is important, and what work has already been done regarding the problem which you are going to evaluate. So what is there already existing in the literature, and what is the lacunae which is there in the existing literature, and in what way is your proposed study different from that which is already published in the literature, and in what and why should the funding agency consider giving funding to your particular proposed proposal. So these are the things which you should explain in detail while you are writing the problem statement. And to write a very good problem statement, you should do a thorough literature search. So if your literature search is incomplete, then you will end up in something like this. On the day of submitting your grant application, you will come to know that there are already few studies which have already been done and published regarding the same topic which you are planning to write for the grant. Now coming to the research question, it is the most important part of any grant application. So your research question should be clear, and it should be very highly focused. So if there is no research question, obviously there is no research, and hence there is no grant. So spend a lot of time to formulate the right research question. So I'd like to quote the wordings of Albert Einstein, who said, "If I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I would solve the problem in less than 5 minutes." So please spend time in asking the right research question. It is very, very important. If your research question itself is not formulated correctly, then whatever good hard work you do in writing the grant application will ultimately end up with failure. Make sure that your research question satisfies the final criteria, and it should be feasible, interesting, novel, ethical, and relevant. And make sure you define your PICO statement, your population, intervention, comparator, and outcome in case of interventional studies, your population, exposure, comparator, and outcome in case of your observational studies. Now coming to the methodology part, it is the part which is very oftenly written poorly by the grant applicants. And the statistics say that almost 40% of the grant proposals are rejected due to poor methodology. So please write your methodology clearly, include all steps which are required to complete the research project. So your methodology should be written in such a way that just by reading your methodology, anybody can reproduce your research work. So it should be detailed, but at the same time, it should be short and concise. And the most important thing is to describe the key personals involved in the study. So you should always describe about yourself, whether you have the adequate competence to do the research work, because the funding agency would like to know who are the people involved in your research work and why should they give you the money, because they would like to know whether you are competent to do the research work or not, whether you are the right person to do this project or not. So always try to highlight the expertise and experience of all the key personnel involved in your research work. And your main aim is to convince the reviewer that you really know what you are going to do. So once the reviewer is convinced, then the chance of getting the grant is high. Now, the next important question is, does the institution matter? So does it influence the reviewer? The answer is big yes, because the funding agency would like to know why the grant should be awarded to your institution. So they would like to know whether the institute has previous experience in managing similar research projects, or whether you have the necessary infrastructure in the institution to carry out the proposed research work, and whether your management is committed to support the project or not. So definitely the institution matters. Next important thing is the budget requirements. Whenever you are trying to write the budget, do the math properly. So when you are trying to write the budget, please be realistic. Don't overestimate the budget, and at the same time, don't underestimate the budget. Read the guidelines document properly, because some of the funding agencies provide funding to purchase equipments, whether some they may not allow the funding to procure equipments. So read the guidelines document carefully and then give a detailed justification for the budget. The most next important thing in any research proposal should be your research proposal at the end should be able to answer these two questions. So what and what next? Okay, you have proposed the study, and once the study is completed, what is the next step? So what? You have just completed your study, maybe like you will get a few publications out of it, but what is the ultimate benefit to the public? What is the ultimate benefit to the patients? So what is your plan to continue the project after the current project is completed? How do you plan to take the idea to the next step? So this is something which every reviewer would like to know. Next is the ethical considerations. So you identify whether there are any sensitive issues which are there in your proposal which need to be addressed. If there are any issues, please address them properly. And the most important thing is whether you or any of your team members have any conflict of interest with respect to the proposed work. In case if you have any conflicts, so please address the conflicts properly while you are submitting the grant application. Okay, so having said this, how does the reviewer evaluate the grant proposal? They mainly look into the CV of the applicant. So whether the applicant has adequate knowledge, adequate experience, adequate qualification to conduct the proposed research. The next thing is the technical and scientific merit of the application. So whether the application is valid technically and whether it is worth funding or not. And the third thing is about the institution. Can your institution support implementation of the proposed project? And does the institution have the adequate resources to manage the current project? Next is budget. How realistic is the budget? And is there the last one is the value for the money. So is it worth spending money for the benefit proposed out of the proposed research? So these are the 5 aspects in which the reviewer is going to evaluate the grant application. So what do the grant reviewers expect? It is very simple. So they expect great ideas from great individuals working in great institutions who be able to produce results which are of great value for the money utilized or money spent. So when I say great ideas, it need not be always out of the box thinking. It might be a simple idea which has a great potential for impact. And great individuals, as I already said, no need to be a genius to write a research application, but you should be able to deliver your promises and you should have a track record to prove that you have delivered the promises. So the most important thing is to learn from the rejections. So being a renowned scientist does not ensure that your grant application will always end up in success. Here in the picture, what you can see Dr. Carol Greeder, who won the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in the year 2009 for her work regarding telomerase. So on the day of receipt of Nobel Prize, she got a mail from her funding agency stating that the last proposal which she has submitted for funding got rejected. So always try to learn from the rejections. So let us see the 10 common reasons for rejection of grant proposals. The first and foremost thing is without not having a proper hypothesis and your research question is not proper. That is the most common reason for rejection of a grant proposal. The second thing is lack of novelty. The proposed research does not have novelty. The third thing is the entire application is dull. It doesn't look like exciting. The ideas are great, but there is no pilot data to prove that it is worth continuing further. The ideas are great, but the researchers seems to be too ambitious, and it seems that the research looks like impractical given the time and resources. Next is sample size is not justified with a proper power calculation. The proposal has too many weaknesses. The control group is not sufficient. Does not have strong record of your CV is not strong, and plans to work in a center which does not have adequate experience in the field. So your institute has no adequate infrastructure, or you fail to explain that why this is interesting, or the impact, what the impact of your work could be. So these are the 10 common reasons for rejection of grant proposals. So if you are able to overcome these 10 reasons, then the chances of getting grant awarded is very high. Now, coming to the last part of the presentation, a big nose in grant writing. Never ever do plagiarism, never ever copy others' ideas in your grant proposal. And whenever you are using the word first of its kind, be very, very careful when you are claiming that there is no previous work, or whenever you are hiding your existing research work, then obviously you are going to end up in trouble. When you write in such a way that you want to do everything, then obviously it is not advisable. Or when you propose to do something which is very less or nothing, then obviously the chance of getting the grant is very remote. And don't never ever assume that the reviewers will figure it out from your grant application. You make sure that the reviewers will get whatever you are trying to convey to them. And the last one is, don't make up lies of things which you are not trying to do. So to conclude, no grant comes through without writing a research proposal. To start with, you should have a well formulated research question. To get a grant, you must write a good proposal. To write a good proposal, you must read the call for proposal document very well. And to read the call for document very well, obviously you should devote time for it. So thank you very much. This is one of my favorite slides. This is Chinese philosopher Confucius, who said, "What I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. What I do, I understand." So if you really want to understand the grant writing process, start writing a grant proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hari Venkatesh. It was indeed a very novel and interesting talk, I would say. You really impacted us so well. I would welcome Dr. Satyan Parida and would like him to join the discussions.
Thank you, ma'am. I think having had the good fortune on multiple occasions of sharing the same research forum with Dr. Hari Venkatesh as part of the JIPMER Scientific and Academic Committee, I can testify to the sheer joy that he brings to the process of discussing and dissecting research proposals. And this talk was very representative of the way or he thinks and the way we collectively think as part of the Scientific Academic Committee. At the beginning, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi talked about us being the right persons to discuss about research grants. I'm not very sure about that. I just have got 2 grants, and that doesn't count much for experience. But what the talk that Hari gave is in relation to most of the general things that any researcher in any subject would face or would have to go through when he's writing a grant proposal. There are certain specifics with regard to anesthesiology that we often face. And those are, one needs to figure out ways how to surmount those problems, because anesthesiology as such, as a subject, has less of a community appeal as compared to something like pharmacology or maybe preventive and social medicine, for example. So that is one of the reasons, because the grant reviewers would probably be looking at how much benefit this fund, this amount that they're going to release is going to be going to benefit the community at large. So that is where most of us fail to convince, most of us in anesthesiology, that is, fail to convince the reviewers that the particular sum of money which they would be releasing would be well utilized for the community at large. So there needs to be some thought that goes into how you actually, grant writing is a little bit like, asking your father for money. So if you're asking your father for money to take your girlfriend out, then you better convince him that she is going to be a good daughter-in-law to him later on. And that's when he's going to give you that money. So that is the challenge that everyone faces in anesthesia, apart from the fact that the right topic for choosing what are the topics that you would probably focus on, the thrust areas in anesthesia. Those are things which one needs to focus on, and those are probably the ones that will be granted. I would share my experience when we started writing for the SERB project. I must confess, we wrote it for the wrong reasons. We were keen on starting the minimally invasive cardiac surgery program here at JIPMER, and we did not have the equipment. Equipments were difficult to come by with fund cuts in JIPMER. So then someone came up with a bright idea. Let's write to one of the funding agencies and see whether they will give us a grant to actually kickstart the program. So we actually wrote the grant to get the particular equipments in order to start the minimally invasive cardiac program. And we were very skeptical at that time that it would go through, because like Hari said, equipments are not something which usually get granted very easily through these bodies. But somehow it went through, and then we got the equipments that we wanted, and we started the so that was one success story. But then not every time would you have that kind of success. So I think there are challenges that are very specific to anesthesia while you are writing grants, and that explains one of the reasons why anesthesiology as a specialty lags behind in the science of grant writing. Apart from the clinical challenges, of course, the time that you devote to clinical work and other things are also there. But then, I mean, if you have to get into this, you have to find a way to circumnavigate through those difficulties. I think welcome comments from any other faculty members or any other respected panelists, any respected attendees who are present here.
I have a question for you, Dr. Hari. Is that, as rightly pointed out by Dr. Satyan, it is indeed anesthesiology itself is a challenge, and then of course challenge for startup researchers. And one of the requirements is to have some kind of, if not professional and research experience. So I know they need to balance it out with a good research question going in, but do you have some tips and for them as startup researchers?
Yeah, definitely, ma'am. Thank you for the question, ma'am. And as I said, for the startup researchers, especially, they don't have adequate experience in doing a research project. So it is better if they collaborate with someone who has already done a very good, well-established research project. So the reviewers just want to know whether, in case if the grant is given to them, will they be able to utilize it properly, whether they will be able to finish the project or not. So if you convince them that even though I don't have the adequate research experience, I'm collaborating with someone who has already done a wonderful work, so now please give me the grant. So definitely that won't be a reason for the rejection of grant proposal. If your proposal has scientific merit, definitely it will be awarded.
Absolutely. There's a question from Dr. Rakesh Garg. I believe he is a very prolific researcher. He wants an emphasis on clinical translational value of the submitted project. I know that's very important and really needs to be done. And there's another question that asks, is it necessary to have an ethical clearance before proposal submission?
That we can answer. The second one, we can answer straight away. I think it's not necessary to have ethical clearance, but it's required to have ethical clearance on the way. I mean, you don't need to submit your ethics certificate when you are submitting a concept note or anything, but obviously any research will have to go through the scientific academic committee of that particular institute, and it would require ethical clearance at that point of time, not when you are submitting it, the concept note to the granting agency. At that point of time, you may not require ethical clearance.
But I believe taking your institute into the loop and having them upfront with you would be helpful, because if you do receive a proposal and the institute has reservations about it, that would create a conflict.
It does. It does, and we often face that, as I said, as part of the scientific academic committee that Hari and I have been on for quite some time now. We do face those problems. But generally, most of these proposals, when they come, they actually they do not have. They come to us even after the grant has been actually awarded, has been promised. So then when they bring here and we go through the proposals, sometimes we have to make certain modifications to the original proposal which was set, and sometimes we have asked the reviewers, the researchers, to go back and submit if those changes could be made to the granting agency, and oftentimes it still gets modified. So,
Dr. Anju, can I say something?
Sure, definitely.
Good evening, everybody.
Welcome, Dr. Satyen Bajwa.
This is a very good, crisp lecture. You know, everything was covered. What I concluded from the lecture's endpoint is that everything should be complete. It's just like a teamwork. You know, you can't have just one good research question and you can get a grant from that. Everything has to be meticulous. Now, coming to this ethical clearance, I think when we submit an ethical clearance, it casts a very good impression on the reviewer that the people have done their work, they have done their homework well, and they have taken all the permission. And definitely, institution is also in the loop, and it's better to go with the complete, team effort.
I agree with that, Dr. Bajwa. The problem often happens when there is a very short time, there is a deadline to the submission of the proposal, and then you do not really have time to go through the ethics committee. And if you have it already passed through the ethics committee, obviously it's much easier. But then often the deadline will be within 1 month, and then the ethics committee does not meet within that time. So in those cases, you can give it to the grants committee with the promise that it will go through the natural process of review at the level of the institute, both through the scientific committee and the ethics. And like Dr. Rakesh is saying on the chat box, many grant projects have to be forwarded through the institute. That's true, but then many are submitted as concept notes and do not necessarily have institute approval at that point of time. Dr. Hari Venkatesh, maybe you could join in.
I think we can also go for the applied for, the way we apply for the cars registration. Better to go get some applied for certificate or something in written from the director or the dean or whosoever is the, coordinating with the ethical committee. You just can put that certificate also if we are applying for that.
How did Dr. Hari go through his proposals, the ones that he submitted?
Yeah, so for us, actually, we have already got the ethical clearance for one of our projects. For the other project which we got funded, initially we didn't have the ethics clearance for that.
Exactly.
So our project got approved. Then after that, we went to the ethics committee. So they said before utilizing the grant, before releasing the grants, they asked us to submit the ethics clearance certificate. So we did that, and we got the
True. So at the time of submission, you may not necessarily require it. You will require it when the grant money comes in.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question, Dr. Hari. If suppose you have got the grant and then the ethics committee proposes few changes, then once again you have to modify those and send it back to them, and probably they'll have second thoughts on.
Yeah, actually, this is a very practical question. Most of the time, it does happen like that.
Most often they make changes. So.
Yeah, as Satyen sir already said, it often happens like that. But generally, ethics committee, once they come to know that the project has been funded, they usually have a soft corner approach. They will definitely give you modifications, but at the same time, they'll make sure that the modifications are not that great that will influence your chance of getting the funding rejected.
The point is that even the grants agencies, they also look at the ethical aspects of it. So I'm not sure that there will be very egregious ethical considerations which would prevent our ethics committee from passing it. So most of the time it gets passed. There are certain changes the ethics committee does modify, that does suggest, and the reviewer can then take it to the grants agency, and those are usually minor modifications, and they do get accepted by the grants agency.
ये देख आ गया स्टार बैठ जा इधर बैठ जा
We invite inputs and comments from our co-attendees and faculty around here. If they are. So your views, please.
my Dr. Anju, I have lived my life. What have I to do to the grants and research? I have only to guide and see how things are. The topic was really excellent. The topic was really excellent, an eye-opener. Even for people like me who have nothing to do with research now, even for me, it has been an eye-opener. At my age, we were never concerned about getting the grants or anything like that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. But you have been a beacon for all of us and have inspired us to do many research. And with this, if there are no questions, I would like to thank.
I also do agree with that, with Dr. Kaul, sir. I don't do research on it. I'm not in medical college service also. But really the talk was very, very helpful. People who are doing that and very lucid and simple language and understandable for anybody. Both the speaker and chairperson, excellent talk.
100%. Agree with you 100%.
It's an excellent talk. Everybody should hear that because the people who are in the medical college or in the research should definitely hear this talk. So wonderful talk.
Yes, and including to I would even extend this talk to even thesis supervisors and students just beginning, the newer researchers are just beginning into this foray of research grants. And so with this, thank you so much, Dr. Hari Venkatesh. It's been an excellent, your deliberations and the way you have lucidly given us so succinctly. It's been excellent hearing to you. And I hand over the mic to Dr. Satyan Parida for his final concluding remarks.
Yeah, I would conclude by thanking Dr. Hari Venkatesh for spending his time with us, the anesthesia community. Thank you for your excellent lecture, and we will benefit from it. We'll surely benefit from it. Thank you, Dr. Hari.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, thank you for the opportunity, sir. Thank you.
I wish to thank all three on the panel, the speaker, Dr. Hari Venkatesh, very relevant to the JOSCP, the clinical pharmacology aspect of it. So I thought he would be the apt person. He was actually suggested by Satyan sir. And I thank both the chairpersons who have given a good discussion, as well as the other panelists who are here, Satvinder sir and Rakesh Garg sir. So Anju Gravel ma'am and Satyan Parida sir, thanks a lot for those good discussions. I just hand over to Dr. Vishal. So
thank you, Dr. Vijayalakshmi.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, Dr. Vijayalakshmi, ma'am. Very good evening to all the dignitaries on the dais. I would also like to extend my special very good evening to ISA National President, Dr. Venkat Giri sir. And we are lucky to have ISA National Secretary, also Dr. Naveen Malhotra sir, also with us on this evening. RSACP has always been a pioneer in promoting the academics, and we've been holding webinars every fortnight to keep abreast with the latest and the everyday topics, not only in the field of anesthesia, but also in the field related to the daily life issues and especially the research-oriented programs. For today's topics, I would like to thank Team Puducherry for bringing in the very relevant and important topics and aptly important and impressive speakers. I would also like to thank our chairpersons to make the discussion interesting and lively. Once again, I would like to thank every one of you for being here with us today. I would like to call upon Dr. Venkat Giri sir to give us a few words of wisdom. Sir, please. Dr. Venkat Giri sir. Sir, you are mute, sir. You need to unmute yourself, sir, please.
Okay, right. Sorry for that.
Thank
Really
you for
enjoyed the talk. It was a wonderful talk. And Vijayalakshmi was calling me and telling many times, please attend. I thought, okay, let me attend. Though I don't do this research work or anything, I'm more of a clinician. But it is an eye-opener for everybody. Every student or PGT should read this or hear this and know they can guide their history. It's a wonderful lecture. We hope to have more because it's apt for clinical society for clinical research and clinical pharmacology. Yes, you have a talk on research methodology is really wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would also like to call upon ISA National Secretary, Dr. Naveen Malhotra, sir.
And Dr. Vishal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I was in the OT. So I was just listening to all the discussions and deliberations. And to be honest, I must congratulate the speaker. It was an eye-opener for me also. So I also learned a few things. Heartiest congratulations to the speaker, and nicely moderated by Dr. Anju Agrawal and the other chairperson. Over to you, Vishal.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now I would like to call upon our esteemed patron, Sir Dr. Tej K. Kaul, sir, to please say a few words, sir. Dr. Tej K. Kaul, sir, can we have a few words of wisdom from you, sir, please?
Well, this webinar arranged by Dr. Vijay Lakshmi has been really superb and excellent. A great idea of having thought to have a webinar on research grants and patenting of the innovations. These are the topics which at least I have never heard earlier anybody talking about. These are newer things, and I congratulate Dr. Vijay Lakshmi for having started these topics which are new, which are innovative, interesting, and absolutely essential for the younger generation and the newer anesthesiologists and medical students, postgraduate students. I am highly impressed by the earlier speaker. I am sure the second speaker too will definitely be of the same, if not more caliber. I congratulate RSACP Pondicherry branch for having arranged such an excellent webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, ma'am, over to you, please, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Venkatagiri, sir. Thank you, Naveen Malhotra, sir, for those kind words. And thanks to our patron, Tej Kaul, sir, for those nice words and encouragement. With you all here, we feel very happy that it was an apt thought to have this. In fact, we know research grants are not many in anesthesia, but still we wanted to know much more about this. So we'll move on to the next topic. For today, I'll just share my screen. For the next topic, we have why should you and how to patent your innovations. We have numerous innovations, especially in the COVID period also, we've seen a lot of innovations, but there is a need to patent them also. And so we thought this is another apt one to have. We have a very good speaker who himself has some patents, who has taken and also applied for some, and two eminent chairpersons to chair this so that we'll have a good discussion about it. So let me share my screen, introducing the chairpersons for the next. So we have our, very happy to have our founder, RSACP founder as a chairperson, Dr. Tej K. Kaul, sir. He's the ex-professor and head anesthesia, the Anand Medical College, Ludhiana, and also the ex-president North Zone ISA, ex-president of National RSACP, ex-chief editor RSACP, patron of RSACP, and delivered numerous lectures, more than 100 publications in various national, international index journals, and his areas of interest include anesthesia and trauma and obstetrics. Very minimal things he had written about himself, but lot more. He has been a pillar of support to all of us so that we could conduct these academic webinars in RSACP, in various activities of the RSACP. A very warm welcome to you, sir, for chairing this session. And second person who would be chairing the session is once again an eminent person, Dr. Sukhminder Singh Bajwa. He's the Professor and Head Anesthesiology Intensive Care, Gyan Sagar Medical College and Hospital, Patiala. And he's having about more than 20 years of teaching experience, an expert reviewer in his areas of interest include research methodology, obstetric and neuroanesthesia, and emergency medicine. Various achievements to its credit. He's part of the GC ISA National, as we all know. 5 national awards, including the KPR Best Young Anesthesiologist of India, 2012 Best Research Paper, Indian Journal of Urology, 2013, and book chapters, and numerous publications, more than 400. And he's also Associate Editor-in-Chief of IJA and JOSCP. Welcome to you, sir. And now I would request both our chairpersons to introduce our faculty speaker for today for this talk, Dr. Devendra Kumar. Over to you, sir.
I request Kaulsar to kindly introduce the speaker. Kaulsar.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bajwa. Thank you, Dr. Vijayalakshmi. It is a privilege and an honor to introduce Dr. V.K. Tripathi. He is our next speaker. He is the additional professor of anesthesia at AIIMS Rishikesh since 2018. He is the ex-vice dean innovations. He is the co-chair of the critical care working group for COVID-19. Earlier, he has worked at IGMC and Research Institute, Puducherry for almost 18 years. He has more than 30 publications, more than 15 years teaching experience at undergraduate and PG levels. He has delivered 62 guest lectures, conducted 40 workshops. He is examiner for MD, DM, PD, CC. He has many innovations to his credit, and he has many awards. But the thing which I liked was that he has developed the Pranavayu. This is a low-cost ICU ventilator during the COVID-19. He has been awarded for distinguished contribution to research by AIIMS. He is the co-inventor of VT scope, and he is also the co-inventor of tongue holding devices, etc. Many innovations to his credit. His area of interest is technology in medicine, which is very well seen by the awards he has received about the innovations. His other areas of interest are regional anesthesia and mechanical ventilation. He will be talking to us, why should you and how to patent your innovation. I welcome Dr. Tripathi, and I'm sure that the researcher and an innovative he is, his talk will be definitely very helpful and fruitful. Welcome, Dr. Tripathi, please.
Thank you, Kaulsar, for kind words. Can I share my screen, Dr. Vijayalakshmi?
Yes, sir, you can share it. Your paid code.
I'm not getting that option actually. I'll check. Yeah, I got it. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah, visible, sir,
Yeah.
visible.
First of all, I would like to thank the society for giving me this opportunity to talk, and so many luminaries in anesthesia are present. So I have designed my talk and for the beginners, like to stimulate people for going into innovation and patent. So I don't call myself as an expert. I have some personal experience. From that those personal experience, whatever basics of these two things, which the topic which has been given to you, to me, I will be talking. And of course, I have no conflict of interest, and some resources or some definition which I will be using from all the sites which already Dr. Hari has mentioned. And I am really thankful to his talk, because people like me need those talk more, so that we can take our ideas forward. So to start with, the objective, I have kept it very simple. I will be talking for next 25 to 30 minutes. And I will be just talking about the basics of innovation, patent, and the process involved in it. And last, I'll just touch upon the why the scope, or why we should be more giving time and energy to that. So why patent? And like Dr. Hari, I will be also telling a story, but unlike his, mine is a real story, and Dr. Satyan is here. Probably he will recollect this. So when I was working in 2000, that 6 to 10 in Mahatma Gandhi Medical College, and that was my beginning of career. I was a assistant professor. And what we faced, like everybody says that the invention is like necessity is the mother of invention. We had nerve locator. We had good set of equipment that is should, thanks to Professor Ravi Shankar. But buying disposable needles for nerve locator was costly, and it was 700 or so. So we were not able to use. So we thought what to do, and then I designed a connector, a simple reusable copper wire with a connector at the end, which allowed the IV cannula to be used with a nerve locator. So then I made some 4, and we continuously used that for more than 2 years. By the time management also provided needles, and it was used for quite some time. Then ultrasound came, then nerve stimulation was used less and less. So, but we did that. What happened is that small connector reduced the cost from 700 rupees to 60 rupees. But to my surprise, in the year 2000, and then we did it, and then we moved on. And then in 2012, I saw a local company trying to sell the same connector to me, saying that this you can use and all. So, and of course, in 2007, we have looked for everything, and did every kind of research to get something which can be used, but we didn't get. So I designed that. But then this is what happens if you innovate something. And as Dr. Vijayalakshmi has mentioned, and I know all the greatest mind in academia of anesthesia is present today. They also have come across numerous bright, brilliant, simple ideas developed by the people, and working even from the senior resident, from the junior resident, we get the ideas. It is, but taking forward those ideas are very, very important. And then after that, we learn that, okay, and of course, we got a little more experience. So when we designed the next equipment, and you probably many of us will be knowing the co-inventor of this is Dr. Prasanna. So when we came up across with this idea of having a low-cost video scope, intubating video scope, we took care of everything which we missed in our prior experience. I gave one experience, and more than one time we have done so many things which we neither innovated, neither patented or not even published at that point of time. So this scope is patented, and as we also applied for grant, and we won the Grant Challenge Excellent, that is round 5. In 2019, we got 10 lakhs money to develop this product, and we are now financing this product and stage of marketing. So what I want to say from this story is we always get some idea, and then we have to work on that and take that to next level. And again, this question, to answer that question, why? Look at all this simple thing. There are many inventions mentioned in the history. You can go through, there are 1,000 and 1,000. The moment we talk about invention, we'll be thinking about Tesla, Apple, and Microsoft kind of thing. But you look at this small scrub daddy, there is a small innovation, a small clip which can help you to keep your spec or reading glass with you. And this is some stupid idea of making your face ugly. But these ideas are also patented, and it has minted millions of dollars for those who have invented it. What my point here is, idea can be simple. And of course, nowadays the Shark Tank India is going on, and many of our youngsters are following it, and they know that. So why is the simple answer is it gives you recognition, it gives you money. If the idea is really worth and you are able to sell those idea to the market, you get money. Then just to compare the innovation to research, I'll just, this is one way of comparing. I'm just to clear this. So research, to in a simpler term, it is search for knowledge. What we do a systematic work to create a new knowledge or devise a new application. So it again has various divisions like basic research, applied research, blue sky research, transitional research, to name few. It can be any other type. And how do we do it? We do it like we start with the problem, questions, and then a systematic scientific approach problem. Look for the current knowledge, formulate a plan, collect the data, and then at the end, analyze the data to get a solution or answer. This is what we clinical scientists, we do. But when you come to innovation, innovation is, just to put it in a simple term, there are many definitions. Introduction of something new. It is as simple as that. Introduction of something new. So that is like is the simplest definition. If you want to have a little longer definition, innovation is the process of creating value. By the value word is very important. Later we'll see why. Value by applying novel solution to meaningful problems. So this is what is the technical definition of innovation. And we know broadly it is classified. It is not any hard and fast classification, but we keep hearing this word: sustaining innovation and disruptive innovation. I just want to take a few minutes for that. Sustaining innovation means something which is existing and you are trying to improve on that. One four-wheeler is there. One let us say that the petrol engine driven vehicle is there, and you are improving on that, applying a lot of technology and inventions to that, and that is called sustaining innovation. But if you look at the disruptive innovation, something new has come to the market which has taken over the other innovation, and it has totally changed the market dynamics. For example, Tesla, the electric vehicle was not at all picking up. The moment Tesla came, and that is what is an example of a disruptive innovation. Another is like Apple phone when it came, smartphone. So I'm not going into detail of that, but it is broadly the terms you will be seeing, that sustaining innovation and disruptive innovation. Now the next question is, who can do an innovation and what can be innovated? It is anyone and anything. It is as simple as that. When I say that, please keep it in mind. Innovation is not equal to patent, and all innovation cannot be patented. So when we go to the next part of my lecture, when we talk about patent, we'll see what can be patented and how can be patented. So innovation is some introduction of something new, as I put it, and anybody can do that to anything. Now, innovation areas can be quality improvement, cost effectiveness, solution to a local problem. As I said, my story that our OT, we are not having a disposable nerve locator needle, so we created a solution. It can be a solution to a global problem. So, and many, I just named few. So innovation areas are many are there. I'm just giving some example. Now, the innovation, what are the area which you can innovate? It can be a product, it can be a process, it can be a service, it can be a technology, it can be even a business model. So anything can be improved upon. And then again, the innovation based on what has caused the innovation and what is the purpose of the innovation. It can be eco-innovation, it can be open innovation, it can be induced innovation, systemic innovation, cyclic innovation. I will not go into detail of that, but just to keep those terminology in mind. And the people who are involved in that is generally, those are clinical scientists. These people are called as innovators. Now, the research and innovation are not two different things. If you look at this Venn diagram, which I have taken from internet, the research, fundamental research, transitional research, innovation, invention, everything is interlinked. So, so I'll not explain this diagram further, but research is not a totally different thing from innovation. It is interrelated. Sometimes it can be used like that. Applied research, fundamental research, all this thing can be linked to that. Now, how do we approach innovation? It is one way. Again, I would like to say that there can be various approach to innovation. But what happens? First is the idea. you imagine. Imagining is the first cornerstone of a innovation. You think about a problem, you think about an idea, then create a solution, design something, some prototype. Yeah, I have given device because I have worked in the device area. So my examples are on device line, but it can be in any line. Once you thought about a solution, design a solution, then check those solutions by experimenting and then improve on that. You can have various versions. Then once you created that solution, you have to assess that solution, you have to test that solution. Then once you do that, you have to scale up to marketing level or the public use, because that is what is the core intention of your innovation, that it has to be used and it should help public. So mostly it is a teamwork. Single-handedly doing all this is very difficult, and teamwork is always easy. Now, as Kaul sir has pointed out, that one of my involvement was this piece of equipment. So I'll just give the example of that, how we did that, so that people who are interested can do. So this is that if you do look at that classification which I put, it was an induced innovation because there was a pandemic coming. This is in the year 2020. A pandemic coming in, and we had lack of ventilator, and also I classify this, it is an induced innovation. The problem was severe, so we were induced. The IIT and the two professors from IIT and myself from our institute, we started doing that. So first, as I said, imagination. We thought, okay, how can we solve? So the idea was put in paper, and then we discussed. Then the team came into picture. Then we started prototyping. If you look at the prototyping, nobody will tell that this is a ventilator. So whenever the first time when we got some news coming from IIT about this ventilator, when it was tested, it came like that, and all the my colleagues say, you are involved in that. Is it a ventilator? But I will just go forward how it moves. So the prototyping, the first one, then the second one, then the third one, we now it become like that. Then the versions were created, further versions were created like that. So we kept on experimenting with those prototype and started improving, added 1 or 2, 3, 4 like that. Finally we had 12 modes in this ventilator, almost all modes ventilator this. Then the fourth one is assessing the innovation which we have made. Here in this case, it is a medical device. We had an independent group of people who tested that in a simulated environment to check if it is working the way it should work. So if you look at this, I'll play a short video. This is how it was working in the first prototype, and this is how it was working when we finally tested in our lab. This was tested in the simulation labs of lab of AIMS RSACP, and totally all the modes, everything was there, and we could achieve. So we used a human patient simulator to test that ventilator. So we came a long way to come to have a particular device which thought that is a solution. But the next thing is a big thing, is that scaling and putting your innovation to use. So now the next thing is to market. So you have to transfer this technology, or you yourself has to create a business to take this your innovation to the public. So and then further development, in this case also we are doing. So that is what we can do. Now coming to the next part of the talk, the patent. So everybody knows about the patent. I just want to put it in a simple term. A patent is the exclusive intellectual property right to an invention of a technical product or process. So here it is just compared to, if you want to put it a simple thing, you own something, like you own a house, you own a car, you own a land, like that. If you have been granted by a patent, so you have to apply to a granting authority. So like you register your piece of land, like that you register your property, intellectual property to a body, and then they grant you the IPR, and then you have that exclusive right for a period of time. Generally in medicine, it is 20 years. Some other literature in the other area, it can be different. But in IPR, thing is 20 years. So it has been granted to, without your permission, nobody can use that idea or that product or that process. Again, it has various type: utility patent, design patent, plant patent, and many things. We'll not go into detail because the scope of this lecture won't cover that. But please be clear that copyright and trademark is different. There is a big panel of experts who are dealing with this copyright and trademark. So I just, for the beginners, I want to make sure that they understand that copyright and trademark is something. Copyright is about your literary work or artwork. Trademark is about some image or logo, but patent is something different. So now, as I said in my initial slide, that every idea or all idea cannot be patented, or all innovation, even if it is new, it cannot be patented. If you want to patent, the basic three things, all three has to be met with. That is novelty, it should be new, and then it should involve some inventive step. It should not be obvious. It should not be a simple, like it is okay, it's very obvious. So you have to have some inventive step involved in that solution. Then only they will consider it for patent. Then it should have applicability. That is the most important part. That is what I was again mentioning in my previous slide. If the thing which you are trying to patent doesn't have a real world use, it is not possible to patent. You have to point out the use may happen or may not happen, but it should have a use. Or the use may be very ridiculous, very impractical. There are millions of patents which have never been marketed or used, but it should have a potential use. Then only it can get a patent. So what can be patented and what cannot is, again, after fulfilling this criteria, is decided by the applicable patent law. Where you are applying your patent, that patent law, if you are applying in India, Indian patent law will see. For example, I give you a simple example. Many times people ask, if you have designed a new process to examine a patient or a new surgery step, that cannot be patented. So that is as clear as that. So like that, few limitations are there in every field which can be patented or cannot be patented. But before even going to that, the first three criteria has to be met. Now, how to get patent? So now you have got your idea. Now you have to register and get a right for that. So there are two ways of doing it. Either you go by self-filing or take a professional service. Self-filing can be done online, and first thing you need is a class 2 digital signature. That again, if you try to search, it is very easy. You get it a class 2 digital signature for less than 1,000 rupees for a year time. So like e-mudra and all, you can get a class 2 digital signature, and then you go into the ip.india.gov.in, and then you can do a self-filing. So that is how we can do. The professional service will guide through the entire process of patenting, but they charge for the service. And then there are two money involved into it. That is, there are government fees and there are professional charges. Now, what are the steps of getting a patent? So first thing first, invention disclosure, putting your idea on paper. Whatever you have got, you have to put that idea on the paper. That is what is invention. You have done something and you have now started putting that into it. That can be brief description, utility, graphs, your diagrams, everything, you put it into paper. Now, you should have a non-disclosure agreement if you are having a collaborator. If you want to take a team, when you are going to disclose your idea to someone, you have to have a NDA so that get it signed. Even if you are taking a professional service for filing your patent, you should get an NDA signed by that IPR consultant, so that they should not disclose your idea to somebody, because it is a property. If it is disclosed and before filing, then you lose the right. So these are the two things. But if you are doing a self-filing and you are alone, NDA is not necessary. You just put everything in paper and go through filing. Now, once you put your thing, everything in paper, as Dr. Hari has already, so novelty is the first cornerstone. So you do a novelty search. Look at the literature, or how the solutions are for the problem which you are created a solution. What are there, and how and what way you are different. Then you have to write and file a patent application. It can be of two types. You can do a provisional patent application. You can do a complete patent application. What provisional patent application? It gives you a time. Once you file your patent, to do a complete patent application, you have 12 months of time. But the provisional patent application will help you in gaining the, suppose the same idea somebody is patenting after 15 days or after 20 days of your provisional patent application, it is everything is similar, you have a advantage. That is why many people do a provisional patent application, but you can do a complete patent application in the single go itself. Then when you file it, the patent will be published by the authority to whom you have filed. Then the examination will be done. That is, you have to request the patent office to examine your patent. And after examination, and when you publish, people can file objection to your patent. So all this will be taken into account, and you have to give a response to the objection of the examiner of the IPR department, as well as any third party, whoever has objected to your patent. So you do a response to them. Then the patent will be granted. So that is this is the step, and there are many steps in between. Like for example, when there is an examination going on by the patent office, they can call for clarification. You may have to appear personally. Somebody has put a objection. You may have to personally attend that. So many things can happen. But for simple novel ideas where basically your things are very new, it doesn't come, but it can happen. But the overall, there are 8 steps. Now, one more thing I want to tell to the beginners, that if you have an idea, do not publish it. If you publish before doing a provisional patent application, you are losing it, because once you publish, the other party you can claim, that is an example for that. I won't go to that story. But if you publish it and then you are trying to patent, the other guy will claim that it is already in public knowledge. It is not a new thing. So in that way, somebody lost some patent and all. So better to file a provisional patent application. And then if you want, you have done some clinical work or you want to publish it, you can publish. This is how it differs. If you are doing a self-filing, the government fees alone is involved. But if you are taking a professional service, it has its own service. So self-filing, a complete process start from 2000, and you can finish everything. The entire process can be finished between 5,000 to 10,000. But there are a lot of things are there where you may need expert help. And if you have spent enough time and you have expertise, after filing few filing few with the professional help, you may become expert. Even you from the starting itself, you can do a self-filing. I know many of my colleagues, they do self-filing from the day one, and their simple ideas are being filed. But if you take a professional filing, 50,000 to means 1 lakh to 10 lakh, it can go depending on how big is your patent. And if you ask me which one to go, so if you have an idea, you want to safeguard that idea, you do a self-filing. But if your idea is very big, you know that it is going to have a commercial impact, and you need a patent in a proper way, better to take a professional service. What after patent? You have got the patent. What next? You can use it for own business. You can rent it, that is license. You can license it to somebody to do that product, and then you get a licensing money. And you can just sell it. You use like a land, you can just sell it. You do a transfer of right, transfer of technology to that party. Then you take some money or whatever you demand, you get it. There are invention which patents which can be sold for $500, and the next person has made $1 million. The inventor has got $500, but the next person who has marketed, who has successfully taken it to the market, has got millions and millions of dollars. Other incentive, like as Dr. Hari said, that you can get some now a lot of institutes and the people are for ranking and other thing criteria are being put. So that also is there. The other one, there are another 4 slides I will be using. This whenever you have got the innovation, you are in the process of filing the patent. Once you have filed the provisional patent, now you want to start working. So you want to apply for grant. Already Dr. Hari has covered, but whenever you are taking something which is innovative and you are trying to, particularly a technology which you are trying to apply for a grant, there will be something called TRLs, or technology readiness level. And different grants are aimed at different technology ready level. That is the original TRL. This thing is designed by NASA, but now it is adopted in most people, like that basic technology research, and then the research proof feasibility, all this. Gradually it moves towards the maturity. Some fund will look at TRL 1, 2, 3. Some will be looking at TRL 4, 5, 6. Some will be looking at TRL 7, 8, 9. And this part I have taken it from BIRAC, and you can have all the TRL defined for individual area, like drugs, vaccine, biosimilars, regenerative medicine. So you click that, they will give a detail. For example, I have taken a screenshot. This is for biomedical device. If you take that stage 1, TRL 1 is ideation. If it they have defined what they mean by that TRL 1. Then TRL 2 is proof of principle. TRL 3 is proof of concept, and it has been demonstrated. Like that, it goes on up to TRL 9. So this is another thing which you know. Another terminology we frequently keep hearing is research and development. So we are talking about research, we are talking about innovation, we are talking about, so what is R&D? To put it in a simple term, innovative activities leading to development or improvement of product or service. So R&D is generally designed for a particular aim. Like they can assemble a set of researcher, engineer, and somebody, and they are trying to develop or improve a particular product. So that is how the R&D is defined. Now the healthcare people and people like us, why we should be more and more involved towards the innovation and patent? Because the healthcare is changing. The precision medicine has come, which is like personalized medicine, therapy designed for individual patient, taking genetics, environment. And this is a huge area which is coming up. Artificial intelligence is another huge area where the thinking process is being shifted to the machine. And then in silico approach, where the testing of medical interventions, the drug and procedures on a simulated patients. So these are all coming. So whenever there is a new area opens up for any person, for example, here you are talking about the healthcare people, then again it leads to a numerous opportunity. So if you start developing your aptitude, I know that most brilliant minds are there in our field. So if you start developing your attitude, then you can get into these areas, and you can. So the healthcare 4.0 is in horizon, where the custom design, closed network, cyber physical medical systems are going to come. And most of you maybe would have heard about it, the Neuralink, which is being developed by Elon Musk and team, where you have an implant which will treat your serious brain disease. You can control the devices through your. It is already tested in animals, and it is testing is being going on human beings. Then human enhancement, that is transhuman. So many things are happening. So I just for this the future scope, I have this slide. And support once you get the innovation, again one other problem with the innovation, I didn't put a slide for that, is you can have 10 ideas or 20 ideas or 100 ideas. You can get patent for 100 ideas, but finally what will really click and will be marketed, and you can get some money, as I have already mentioned, that it should be used by people. So if so maybe 1, 2, 4, 5 or 10 can come for those out of that 100 ideas. But what happens is you have to put time, energy, and money for all the 100. That is why the if you look at the history, there were single inventor innovators previously. Now most of the thing have been taken over by bigger companies and multinational companies. So they do this work. But still, there are subset of people who are doing core invention and patent. It is being going on. So the thing is, like, once you have this invention and patent, the money is involved. The further development will ask for money. So the next step is what the previous speaker has talked about. You have to go for grant, which should be done. Like people like us, where we are in academia and we spend part of our time and we have developed something, and we cannot go solely for marketing and do business on that. So we have to look for funding. Thank you for the kind opportunity. I will be happy to take some question if this.
Excellent presentation, Dr. Tripathi. It was really an eye. Hello.
Hello, sir. Yes, sir. I'm able to hear you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tripathi, for an excellent lecture, an eye-opener for the younger generation. And you have made it so simple, very informative. I must thank you on my behalf and on behalf of RSACP for delivering such a lecture. There are some questions in the chat box. One is, what are the rules that one should follow as a government employee when your product goes for the commercial production?
Yes, sir. That is thing. If you are a government employee, institutes like AIMS Delhi or AIMS Rishikesh, we have a patent policy. Even IITs and IIMs have the patent policy. But filing patent, you can file individual patent. So as in our institute, I can talk, I have handled that for quite a few times. So what happens here is I can file a patent through the AIMS. I have to apply the deanery which I was holding priorly. Now that is closed and merged with research. You have to apply it to them. And then if they feel that your idea is good, the entire patent process and everything is taken over by the institute, and the institute is filing the patent on their name, and you are the innovator. But if I want to patent something on my own idea, on my own money, I can go ahead with my own idea thing. But once you are trying to market it, then you have to look for what is the law says. So as again in our institute, the patent policy dictated. If the institute has supported, institute has filed the patent, then the 30% of the commercialization, whatever gain you get from that product, you have to pay to the institute, and you have 70% goes to your account. It is allowed, legally allowed. Similarly, IIT Roorkee, I have worked there. The proportion is 80-20. So 20% goes to the institute and 80% goes to the innovator. So you have to find from your own institute what is the regulation. But to my mind, filing a individual patent, I don't think you need to take it to any red tape. You can straight away file on your own. But if your institute or your organization has a patent filing process where they help you to file a patent, then you have to go through that. Because here another point comes is the stealing of idea. Though we know that it generally doesn't happen, but if you make your idea public, you give it to somebody, and the integrity of those 4 or 5 people who are there. So even our institute, the people who are looking after those patent applications sign a NDA where they keep the secrecy of that idea. So if I'm correct, if I'm answering the question or anything further clarification is needed.
There is another question from Dr. Pradeep Bhatia. He says, suppose you get an investor interested in your product, how you take money, as an individual or as the institute as a partner? That I think half of that you have already talked about.
Yes, sir. Bhatia, sir,
my question is also something related to it. Yes, I want to know that how do you price your patented innovation?
Yes, sir.
What are the criteria to say? Is it rupees 10 or 100 or 1,000 or a lakh? How do you price it?
Yes, sir, I'll answer both the question, try to answer actually. What Bhatia sir is asking is once that we have also faced. We have 2 other projects going on where the investors are on board and they want to take us, because when they take your idea, they want guarantee that your idea they are going to take forward and you will be helping them, you will be there with them, you are committed to them. That is what they want. For that, they want to put you on their medical board, and you have to have some position in that. But our government regulations are not that clear, because of some other conflict of interest that is not yet being clarified, but case to case basis, we get a clarification from the institute, and based on that IPR policy of the institute, we allow to technology transfer is easy, sir. That is very clearly mentioned. Like you say that I am selling this technology, what I have developed for, let us say 10 lakhs. So 30 lakhs, 3 lakhs will go to institute and 7 lakhs you get. It is officially allowed. But the second question, what question?
That is the distribution of the cost. How do you
exactly, sir? Coming to that from my personal experience.
Which are responsible to
exactly, sir. Exactly, price. Sir. Yes, sir. When my own thing, that Pranabhai, we took a lot of time to give it to some marketing people, because when that is depending on the negotiation, when the negotiation happens to the person who is trying to, so you are the only person who can value your product. You can say it that I will sell it for 500 rupees. You can say it I will sell it only for 5 crore rupees. So suppose you have a buyer for 5 crore rupees, you buy. But I will give you example of a dilemma. For example, for us, when we designed a Pranabhai ventilator, we wanted it to be the cheapest ICU ventilator. So the company which came to make money out of it, we were very careful. Few of the company we rejected. We didn't want to make money. With 3 of us, we didn't want to make much money. So we didn't price our thing. We didn't want to sell. We said, we will give you this technology, but make sure the price stays at this bracket. So that is where, because companies want to make more money from your innovation, we didn't want. So again, the whole idea behind designing or developing this ventilator was not serving. That is why we resisted few times. In fact, we said we will not sell. They said, no, your that TOT, you take this 50 lakhs or 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs, give it to us. Then we said, no, we want a condition that what will be your, we know that actually how much cost is involved in making that ventilator. We asked them, how much you will be selling it for? So that is a different kind of negotiation, but the value of the product is solely lies with the inventor. So what he wants to do with that. If you want to keep your land vacant, you want to sell it for 10,000 rupees or you want to sell it for 10 lakh rupees, it is up to you. If you have a moral or ethical guideline, you say, no, I will not give it to somebody who will exploit this land. So you won't give. So that is how it works, sir.
I have one question, sir. If I may, Tej, sir. Yeah. So regarding publication, so one or couple of equipments which were designed, immediately the first response would be to publish. After that, we realized we should have patented it. So is there a time limit that you publish and you beyond which you cannot patent or something?
No, if you publish, you can apply for patent, but then the patent is always challengeable and you tend to lose your patent. So suppose you have designed something, you have tested and you are reasonably sure that your thing is a new thing and it is patentable. So please file a provisional patent. You just file a provisional patent. You are safeguarding your idea. Then you can, no, you are not going to publish it before sending it for publication to any journal or even to the newspaper for that matter. You apply for a patent because the claim which they take is it is already in a public domain. It is not a new thing. That is how it put that example which I didn't discuss, where they were talking about the automated boom barrier opener, no, which you see in mall and in toll plaza. Somebody designed it, but unfortunately that fellow published it in some journal. And subsequently we was patenting it. The other company fellow said, no, it is already published. It is there in the journal and this, that, and same person, same person
who was same person who has published as a
published. No, it is a public. That is our IPR consultant has clearly told that, and it is all as I said, I am not an expert. I am only talking from my experience. So it is very clear that if before making your idea public, you are supposed to patent it. At least file a patent. You file a provisional patent. That gives you 12 months time to file a final patent and improve upon your idea. That is how it should be done.
Why I asked was my personal experience regarding the tube in tube. We had published, but later on realized we didn't patent it. So now there's no scope that you can do it.
You may have to consult a IPR consultant on that, but this is what I know.
Okay, thank you, sir.
There have been many comments in the chat box. They are all praises and praises and praises for both the speakers of having dealt with innovative ideas excellently and gracefully. Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, we must thank you. We must profusely, because it is you who has given us this idea. You have selected the speakers, you have brought them, you have requested them to deliver the lectures. The credit goes to you also and the RSACP branch of Pondicherry. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Any faculty, any participants want to ask any question? They are most welcome.
I think the chat box doesn't have any other questions. So.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you. Long live RSACP. You can ask. I hand over the mic to you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Saminder Singh Bajwa sir has an
emergency left.
So apologize for that. So sir has apologized. So Dr. Vishal sir, so we come to the end with your permission.
It was a wonderful session, ma'am, and thank you, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, ma'am, for bringing out the out-of-the-box ideas. And it was a wonderful session, a wonderful academic evening, and things related to patents and research grants, ma'am, brings everybody's fascination around. Thank you very much, and long live RSACP. With your due permission, Dr. Tej Kaul sir, should we put an end to the session, sir?
Please.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. Long live RSACP.
Long live RSACP. Long live us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all from each and every.
Unfortunately, very few people are there. That is a very unfortunate thing.
Yes, sir. No, it is actually live streaming, sir.
Many people should have attended this talk. Such a beautiful talk.
Sir, it is being live streamed, sir.
Thanks to Dr. Venkatagiri, sir.
Sir, actually, I wanted to thank each one of you, patron sir, Tej Kaul sir, RSACP President Madam was there. She was feeling bad. Maybe she'll join us for the March session, next session. The President-elect Naveen sir was there for his kind words. National Secretary, who's been very, very helpful throughout. He was the one who's actually, I plus minus I should do or not, but then I did it somehow with his help. Thank you so much, Dr. Vishal.
Excellent.
And thank you to the Vice President Anju ma'am. It was an excellent discussion. Out of her busy time, she's taken some time for this. The editor of JOCP, Pradeep Bhatia sir, has come, actively participated, joint secretary. And special thanks to Venkatagiri sir. You joined in even being on work, and you have encouraged us, and you said you enjoyed it. We hope for all future programs. Thank you so much, sir, for your
hearing Tripathi sir after a long time. He was in my place, Kasaragod.
Sir, thank you so much, sir. You are always like everything you support, sir, and particularly Pondicherry you support much, sir.
Yes. And I thank each and every of the person of the faculties today who have contributed this good discussion. I myself had so many things about these research grants and all. And now at the end of it, I feel I've learned a lot. So hopefully many of the delegates who have been, some have joined online, sir, Venkatagiri sir, but it is going live also. Probably they would have seen there too, and review in the YouTube if they wish to. So thank you all once again, and thanks to all the delegates. Long live RSACP.
Long live RSACP.
Vijay Lakshmi, thank you.
Thank you so much.